Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm in San Francisco at one of the greatest maritime museums on the planet, is what I've read and what I've told about. They have millions of artifacts in there. I know obviously we can't see all of them today, but I'm going to take you in there because the rumor has it that the foundation is got an issue and they're going to have to close this building at the end of the year and move it to Mare Island and Vallejo. So let's go see what we can discover at the Maritime Museum today. All right, let's check it out. Okay, that was funny. That was the wrong entrance. Okay, here is the museum. Let's go see what we can discover in this museum today. I love the door. They have a mermaid boat here, so you can see. So this boat looks like the mermaid was used to cross the Pacific Ocean from Japan to here, I think. First plywood kingfisher boat used by Kenichi Hiroi's solo voyage across the Pacific Ocean. This boat is exceptionally valuable in the history of marine engineering in Japan. Therefore, we acknowledge a boat deserves the ship heritage. These are some of the artifacts that the gentleman that did this solo trip had in the Mermaid. That's pretty cool, that carved head there, huh? This is the only head survives from the full figure that once graced the bow of an 1873 English square rigger. And I like the paintings on the wall, the murals. They have flounder and eels and all sorts of sea creatures there. Let's look at the detail of these models. Amazing. It's a model of the flying cloud. And here's a typical harbor, I guess. Lumber for long haul. Pretty cool detail there. These are various ship parts that were found, and the water would extend back here. This was found in 1978. The ferry building, which is downtown financial district, was all underwater at that point. Here's another model, Gold Rush in San Francisco, 1850. I got some cool tile work out here. It's a bizarre sounding crackling lights. So this building was meant to look kind of like old steam liner. And it's got quite the view out here. And you notice down there, people actually swim in here. It's like a swimming area. That water is about 58 degrees. Not real good swimming water, especially if you're not wearing a wetsuit. But people do it. And the world famous swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco takes place here too. And there's Mount Tam. And then we got Angel Island there. Look at these old phone booths. For those youngins, we used to go in here for privacy and shut it so no one could hear your phone call. Way before cell phones were around. Check out the Art Deco ceiling they got in here. There ain't much in this room. There's got to be more to this museum than that. There's the hippie van tour that you can take. Okay, update. The San Francisco Maritime Museum is a complete waste of time. There was nothing in there. Beautiful building, Art Deco building, made to look like a steam liner. In my mind, I thought they would have, you know, artifacts from all over. And the ranger in there was very nice, and they gave me this map, and they said there's some other artifacts down the street which we'll go look at. But this beautiful building behind me has pretty much nothing. It was very bizarre. So I did my best. I've lived in the Bay Area since 1971 and never been in that building unless I was on a field trip maybe. But there's nothing in there to look at, so don't waste your time. And now I kind of know why it's free. So maybe the other building has something we can check out. We'll see. Hey, I also wanted to give you guys an update on the moving of the museum. Apparently that building is not what's the issue. It's the dock that I showed you, and I'll show you again where these boats are. That dock is under extreme disrepair, and you can't even go and tour the boats right now. So they're going to move all the boats to Mare Island. That's the deal with what I heard about it moving to Mare Island. And that building, again, was kind of a waste of time. So don't waste your time going there. Apparently the visitor center has a little more artifacts, so let's take a look. Okay, this place is the place I was hoping the other place would have. A lot of models here, the old boats.
Our park is going out onto the pier for the ships, but the ships we had the last day.
And this talks about the maritime history in San Francisco. I'm not sure what that is. Does it say what it is? Oh, medical kit. Ugh. Some handcuffs if you're a bad boy, and a billy club to beat you senseless. This is a whale's tooth. Macrame belt. A doll. Sail needles and beeswax. So that's a pin cushion made out of beeswax. And then got an example of a knife and a paintbrush, a shipboard clock, and a picker, and a holy stone. Little videos of what it was like back in the day. Most of these sailors live a different life than anybody could imagine here. Cabin key tags. They're like, what are you taking our picture for? Net making needle. Now this has to be the best thing in the whole exhibit. Fresnel lens. Look at that thing. I covered that in my Point Reyes Lighthouse video. But there's a gentleman in France that invented these. And as I recall, the light from these would go 20 miles out. Very amazing device that has been replaced by digital now, but in its time, pretty amazing. You can see they're perfectly balanced and rotating. And the lighthouse keeper would have to make sure it was all working properly. This here is a tide gauge. And it shows how to float like in your toilet. And the float would tell you how deep and when the tide was coming in or leaving. Global positioning receiver, modern, and ancient positioning receiver. Lead line, depth finder, and that would hit the bottom. You would mark how much rope went to the bottom, and you know how deep it is. Various artifacts here, old compass, the oil tanker. Here's pictures of the actual houses built on the Farallon Islands in 1878. Each had 2 apartments to house the 4 keepers' families. And this is the hoisting systems. Wow. That is a lonely life working out there, I'll tell you that. The USS San Francisco. It says this is a floating lighthouse. Look at this old photo, that's pretty cool. This guy's all waiting by the dock here. Got a steam donkey there, looks like it pulls the ship in. Using the donkey to pull the ship in. And then you got Mr. Ed here waiting to take people to wherever they want to go. Little boat here. You know, San Francisco Bay did have its issues with getting in and out. Perilous entrance. A lot of ships had issues crashing into the rocks. Here's one here. It's a guy being hoisted away. This shows all the different ships that have capsized here within the Golden Gate area. This is Stinson Beach, but you got all these different, all these in red represent ships that have run aground. That's a lot. So various artifacts here. Engine boiler plaque from 1851. Showing the Native Americans here and how they used to float around and catch fish. There's Miwok Indians in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is I like the museum. It's well done. There's a flounder and some salmon and crab. It's all black and white pictures of the people in the fish market. Look at this guy up here. And then over here is showing an example of some crabbing boats. Crab net. You see that net there? I used to use one of those when I was a kid. I'd ride my bike to Sausalito. And one time I caught some crabs. I had no idea what I was doing. I did end up cooking them in boiling water, and I don't think I liked them too much because I didn't know what I was doing. And over here, there's various tools, propellers, props, cranks. And this, a strong one-lunger. I think this is for deep sea diving. Old style Hicks engine, probably made in the late 20s. Note that there's no spark plug. The spark is generated by the magneto, is delivered by a mechanical driven igniter. So where would these are the valves. This must be the mechanical driven igniter they're talking about. These are all engine powered Monterey boats hauled out of Fisherman's Wharf. Old sailing boats. Local stories. The wives and children of Italian fishermen often worked at the canneries in the North Beach district. The building you are in was once a warehouse for the California Fruit Canners Association. Fruits and vegetables came from the Central Valley by river, steamer, and later by rail. So the building we're in now was a cannery building. And then they used to ferry their trains and locomotives from here over to Tiburon. And then from Tiburon or Sausalito, you would keep going. See, there's examples of that. These ferries would have cars and trains on them sometimes. More examples. This is an example of a storefront shipping supplies. A nice big weight there. Look at these old lanterns. These are cool, these brass lanterns. And some old fishing boxes and pumps that you may need. And look at these lures. Those are some fancy lures there. Salmon troll line spinners. And the size of those hooks. And these are called marlin spikes. Steel spikes are used particularly when splicing wire rope. And here's some more of these netting needles. And look at the difference between the Skyline. It doesn't have the Salesforce tower there, which is bigger. But look at the difference.
I'm John Lee, Captain John Lee, San Francisco resident since 1864, and ferryboat captain for 37 years out on that bay. Back in the 1890s, I would bring my two daughters up here and tell them about the many ships we could see. They learned a lot about San Francisco and the bay from up here. There had been vessels out there for 10,000 years or more. The first ones were tule boats. The people living here fashioned those boats from bundles of reeds. They used them for fishing and hunting and travel. Much later, a little packet ship, the San Carlos, entered the Golden Gate around the time of the American Revolution. Aboard were Spanish map makers sent from Mexico. That was the beginning of the outside world coming and going through the Golden Gate. Not long after the Spanish mapmakers were here, small ocean-going vessels, brigs, brigantines, or schooners arrived with sea otter hunters. The Russians, the British, and finally the Americans from Boston sailed to China with those pelts, making them the first world traders here. It was a good business, but meant the end of the otters, beavers, and a lot of the seals that populated the bay. By the 1830s and 40s, you would see little barks or brigs that had sailed from Boston around Cape Horn, with Yankees looking to buy cowhides and tallow from the missions and ranches here. They would return to Boston and sell that cargo to New England shoe factories. Yankee crews got to know the area, and some settled here in this quiet town, which was then known as Yerba Buena. When gold was discovered, the quiet times were no more. Gold fever infected folks everywhere, and soon ships from all over the world were streaming through the Golden Gate. When the ships arrived at the harbor, they dropped anchor, and most everybody took off for the gold fields, abandoning hundreds of vessels, many of which are buried below downtown San Francisco to this day. The prospectors wasted little time getting upriver to the gold country. Steam paddle wheel riverboats were the best way to get there until the railroad came along. They were expensive to build and operate, but with all that traffic, they made a lot of money. Even as the gold fever cooled off, San Francisco's population grew. All these folks needed goods: hay, fruit, salt, grain crops, moved from the valley farmlands to San Francisco docks. Scow schooners, simple flat-bottomed sailing boats, perfect for the job. Scows were cheap and easy to build. It was a good little business for an individual or a family. Through the years, you could see them making their way up and down the bay. And the fishing boats you could see from this hill. Italians had their feluccas, and later their Monterey-type powerboats. Any Sunday, you could see them heading out into the bay, then back to the wharf on Thursday, heavy with a catch for Friday's market. The Chinese built little junks out of redwood and used them to net bay shrimp for their shrimp fisheries. As far back as the gold rush, you could spot ocean steamships smoking their way in and out of the bay. The Pacific Mail Steamship Company got a government contract to carry the mail in 1848. When their big wooden side wheel steamers came through the gate, the whole city turned out like it was a holiday. Steamer Day it was. And everyone knew the steamer was coming with mail because of the semaphore signals sent from right here on top of Telegraph Hill. That same Pacific Mail Steamship Company used large ocean liners after the Civil War to carry mail across the Pacific to Japan and China. And generations of Chinese and Japanese immigrants arrived here on the return passages. San Francisco continued to grow, and there was a tremendous demand for lumber. So California shipbuilders made these wide, shallow lumber schooners. Those vessels could get into any of the tiny coastal mill harbors, pick up a load of redwood or Douglas fir timber, then sail down the coast through the gate to the busy docks on the waterfront. We could see them on the bay, heavy with great piles of lumber on their wide, flat decks. And you would always see the big steam ferry boats. What a life that was. Before the bridges were built, we carried thousands of passengers, the first commuters here, into town each day and back home every evening. When the fog wasn't too thick, those lucky folks got close views of the schooners, tugs, steamers, all the action on the bay. But the grandest vessels you could ever hope to see were the big square riggers, like the Valplutha. After the gold rush, wheat grain was the main cargo export from San Francisco. Those wind-powered ships sailed that cargo around Cape Horn to Europe and returned with imported goods for our growing city. Until about 1900, the big square riggers handled almost all of our deep-water cargo shipping. But the new steel-hulled freighters with oil-fired engines changed all that. Those ships were able to make the passages from Europe to the West Coast efficiently and predictably. Most were built in Great Britain. But America got into building freighters in a big way during the 2 World Wars. There were thousands of ships built right here in San Francisco Bay. It was a perfect fit, with rail lines delivering the raw materials, a big labor force, and an easily accessible waterway for the shipyards. In the 1960s, American companies pioneered the use of containers. but it dooms San Francisco as a port. Container ports need lots of land and good rail and highway connections. Just the ticket for the Port of Oakland, which has become one of the largest containerized cargo ports in the West. The vessels out there today still tell a great story. They look different, but like the vessels dating back thousands of years, they use the free waterway of the oceans and bay that connect us to the rest of our world. They are part of your life today, and part of your history tomorrow. Enjoy the view, and smooth sailing, kind people.
This was their way of letting you know what a vessel was. Gold Rush ship parts and cargo discovered under the city. And they're still under the city. They're on the floor. Check out these old pictures. Indian. No one really smiled back then. Life was tough. I imagine there wasn't a lot to smile about. This represents gold.
It's gold! Gold! Gold from the American River! Gold! Gold!
Turtle, sawfish,
Telling me sailors don't
walrus tusk.
Steady breeze, just right, nearly there, but not quite dead aft. But with all our sails light and heavy,
More artifacts here that are bound. Look at, check that out. That's pretty cool.
But it's just glorious.
Some captain hats here. Businessmen. Kind of look like mobsters, huh? Some more pictures from the 40s. Well, the 30s. This is a restaurant aboard a ship in the 30s. Different pictures of the various areas of San Francisco. This is Vallejo and Petaluma and Mill Valley. This is where I grew up mostly, Sausalito. Petaluma's up here, and I currently live over here in Nevada. San Francisco, of course. And Oakland Harbor, and then Fresno, Stockton, all these waterways. And here's a cool picture of 1940s looking at the ferry building. Up there you got some massive ship horns. And look at this. Notice taking of photographs from the ferry steamers is prohibited by federal law. During World War II, the government did not want the shipping in the bay to become photographed and required that these signs be posted on ferries. Wow. Bizarre. This corner shows some little bit of risque pictures there. Brain salt, Holy Bible. I'm assuming that they're trying to depict that's what a sailor's belongings would be. I'm noticing the women have cigarettes, a lot of them. I wonder what that thing is. Does it always say? This area here shows the 1906 earthquake and what mostly fire took out San Francisco. Well, everyone, what did you think of that? This is a pretty impressive museum here. Apparently the guy that designed it won an award. Anyway, thanks for coming along. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about my channel, and I will see you on the next video. All right, peace.